Get in the know. Non-stop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
No, I want to be Minnesota. Yeah, that's kind of a no-brainer. So hopefully, we can earn the right, to do that. And I've always said that when I say I would like to be in Minnesota. There's a lot of things I'd like to have. You got to go earn it. So that's kind of where I'm at with that.
My favorite thing about that Kirk Cousins press conference at the voluntary workouts yesterday, the tucked-in gray T-shirt into the sweatpants with the white tennis shoes. I think that's the look he had for the Kirko Chains moments on the planes, too.
Yeah, definitely tucked in.
The tucked in, the dad look, man. He has mastered the quarterback dad look.
Why would you ever tuck a shirt in if you didn't have to?
My stepdad does it. I think it's a generational thing, but Kirk's younger than me, so I don't know.
Some people like to. Like I
very uncomfortable.
If it's like if I'm golfing and I have the polo tucked in, like I think I'm batting 50-50 on tucking that polo, and I sometimes let it just hang over my shorts. It depends where I'm playing. It depends how I'm feeling.
If you get a nice belt too, you want to show the belt off.
Exactly. I think the belt helps. But to your point of the Kirk being like dorky Kirk without the belt. And that look is just very much a dad look. I don't know. I think that's the best.
Yeah, tucking it into your beltless sweatpants, because I can see, golfers,
right?
Especially if you're in good shape, like you're a Rory McIlroy or somebody. You got the nice white belt, and you're showing off the
totally different
physique. Maybe he's showing off the physique, man. Kirk's looking pretty trim for a guy in his mid-30s.
I don't dress well, but I never tuck in.
Maybe you should try it, dude.
I don't dress.
No, I have.
Should be your thing.
No. It's not comfortable. Maximize comfort.
How about a French tuck? A French tuck? Just the front of your shirt tucked in, and then you leave the other just the front of your shirt tucked in.
Yeah, Dawn does that. I ain't doing that.
It's the French tuck.
I was like, "What's wrong with your shirt?" She's like,
"What do you mean? It's a French tuck."
It's a French tuck. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, but what's wrong?"
So we'll get into some of Kirk's. Kirk was asked about his contract situation and the Vikings drafting Jaron Hall and Jordan Addison stuff. So we'll get to some of those clips and some other items from a Vikings media day yesterday. But a shout out to our friends at TCL. No matter what you watch, TCL has award-winning TVs for any budget, any space, all with stunning picture quality. And TCL makes more than just TVs. They offer mobile products, audio devices, home appliances. TCL brings you joy and simplicity through innovative technology. Learn more at TCL.com. All right, Deck, let's hear from Kirk again here. We have a couple more clips, and then we can talk about just some of the things that he said at the Vikings voluntary workouts yesterday. What do we got next?
I would just say that to say it's more the norm than the exception. Yeah. I think the exception is that you have something penciled in for future years. Most of our locker room has no idea what's coming in 3 or 4 months, let alone 3 or 4 years or next year. So I feel like I'm one of the guys, if you will. Like, we're all in this together, and that's the way this league works. And I think it's part of what makes this league great, because everybody has an edge. Everybody's working. Everybody's got something to prove, and nobody can operate with entitlement or comfort and put in less than their best. And I think that's a great thing about our league.
He doesn't seem offended. I didn't expect him to be, but
right.
And the way Kwesi kind of painted it was, hey, we're not like kicking him to the curb by not extending him beyond 23. It's just when a negotiation hits a point where there's too much of a gap, then both sides just say, let's come back to this later. And he doesn't seem, at least in these press conference clips and the way he's gone about business the last month or so, he doesn't seem offended by any of it. I think that stands out to me.
I think it's important too, and he talked about this, and he's exactly right. Kirk Cousins' whole career has been built on this.
Mm-hmm.
He talked
about
like
that.
The press conference, the fact that when he was in high school, he didn't have college scholarship offers for most of his senior year, and the Holland, Michigan newspaper would continually ask him, is something coming down the pike? And then he got to Michigan State. Nothing was guaranteed there. There were a bunch of quarterbacks. Got to Washington, played on the last year of his rookie contract, and then played on the franchise tag back to back. So this is nothing new. Like the exception to the rule for Kirk here has been the fact that since 2018, he has had the ultimate amount of security. And for all you Crusaders, listen carefully, because I'm going to say something that sort of praises Kirk Cousins. I love how he handled it yesterday, especially.
Me too.
I absolutely thought it was, and he's right. And look, you know what? In this case, I think both sides are right. I think both sides are exactly right. And I don't know that the Vikings actually aren't being sort of smart here by saying, prove it again.
Yeah.
Prove it again. You know, there's nothing wrong in professional sports with saying that. So I think from both sides, the way that we have seen this handled so far is spot on perfect. No problems.
Yeah. It's kind of a breath of fresh air that most quarterbacks feel entitled to huge amounts of money. Now, like Lamar Jackson's in a much different spot because he was the 32nd overall pick, and he's made some money, but I think he's made like $7 or $8 million in four years playing football.
Sure.
This is his first chance, especially the way he plays. He could just tear an ACL at any given point. A guy like Lamar is setting up for, this is my contract, so I'm gonna fight for it. Kirk's already had $250 million sent his way. But a lot of quarterbacks just kind of feel like, yeah, like it's an ATM machine. This thing should keep coming. And so if he's being honest, and I think he is, it's a refreshing way to look at it that, hey, yeah, I mean, I'm comfortable having to earn it. That's where I've been my whole career. That's where he's been since high school. He didn't get any major offers. Michigan State came along after his senior season was over. And like he had to play a full slate of high school football. He didn't have Big Ten schools and ACC schools knocking on his door when he was 15 years old. He had to literally play his senior year before Michigan State was like, okay, I guess you could come in here and be like the sixth guy. And then at Michigan State, it's like climb over 6 or 7 guys. And then you're not going to be a first round pick, but maybe there's somewhere for you in the 4th or 5th rounds behind a franchise quarterback. So, and then when it's contract time. So he also talked about the addition of Jordan Addison, I believe, here.
I felt like anything was possible when I kind of looked at our situation, and like I said, picking a little later, you kind of feel like you can rationalize a lot of different decisions and directions to go. Nobody knows the future, so you're still having to make educated guesses. But I'm excited to get him in here and see what he's got, and then whatever he's got to build on it and to just get him working and get him comfortable and get everybody caught up to speed.
Now, I will say that press conference probably would have had a far different tone if the Vikings had gone quarterback in round 1. So just to be clear here, like it's a big difference.
They were poking around
and they were
it.
sniffing
They were
around
poking
it.
around it.
But instead they did what the Packers wouldn't do, which was, okay, we can't get our quarterback. We're not going to get desperate. We're actually going to beef up our offense. So my guess is that Kirk's like, okay, there's no pressure now, which is good for Kirk. But again, I think the way that this whole thing unfolded is absolutely fine if you have faith that the Vikings have the ability to find and develop or identify their next quarterback. And until they prove that they can't, the sins of Spielman, in my opinion, aren't going to be visited on Kwesi.
The Sins of Spielman.
But I mean, that's what we're worried about, right?
It sounds like a great Netflix docuseries, like a 3-part docuseries.
Sins
Power
of the
of Kwesi
Father,
compels you.
Yes.
He's whipping holy water.
Exactly right.
Well, and you mentioned the tone of this would have been different if it was a first-round quarterback. If, oh, man, Will Levis is falling. We got to take Will Levis.
Right.
I still think Kirk handles it professionally and handles it well. I don't think he throws a tantrum or like skips voluntary workouts. He's a pro. I think he would have had a similar tone. But
Agreed.
The fact that it's a 5th-round quarterback makes it less threatening. And I will say this, based on what we know about Jaren Hall's personality, and I told you guys earlier this week, I poured over a lot of Jaren Hall press conferences, just like Kwesi said he did the same thing during the pre-draft lead-up as you're trying to get information on a guy. Jaren Hall seems to have a really likable, professional, calm demeanor, just like Kirk. When you listen to Jaren Hall speak to the media, he sounds a lot like Kirk in the way that he's friendly, he's very respectful. He doesn't throw teammates under the bus. He seems like a guy that's just like a guy that can be in a room and kind of talk to anyone. I'll bet you, I don't know how we quantify this for a write that down prediction, but I'll bet you Jaren Hall and Kirk Cousins become pretty close in 2023. Sure. In part because it's not super threatening.
Right.
Jaren Hall is definitely here in a perfect world to take over for Kirk Cousins. Like there's a 6% chance of that happening, but I'll bet you based on their personalities, Jaren Hall's not going to come in here and thump his chest like some other quarterbacks would and say, I'm going to take this guy's, like Zach Wilson, I'm going to make life miserable for any quarterback they're going to bring in here. Okay, guy, calm down. So that's my impossible to quantify, write that down prediction that Jaren Hall and Kirk Cousins become bosom buddies at Vikings practice the next 3 months.
Could definitely see it. Yeah. And look, there's still going to be a ton of questions. The unknown obviously remains high, but yeah, I don't think, Kirk gets this. Like, this isn't, again, it's not new. Kirk has not always been the anointed one. He has been here for the most part, but so like this is nothing where like Kirk is being challenged for the first time. Kirk has had to, as Kirk said, overcome odds on a regular basis. So I thought the tone of what he said to me seemed, and I might be being fooled, it seemed genuine. And I will say, we have seen guys say stuff at podiums before where you're like, I'm not buying that.
Yeah. Well, another thing, if you just, let's forget about the contract situation for a second here and the uncertainty of whether he's going to be here in 2024. In 2023, this is setting up potentially for the biggest season of his career. If you start to look at and read the tea leaves, right? He's got maybe the best set of weapons he's ever had, the best wide receiver in the NFL, one of the top 5 pass catching tight ends in the NFL, a plug and play number 2 wide receiver in Jordan Addison that can run routes, and maybe that dude becomes a 1,000-yard receiver pretty quickly. KJ Osborne, would anyone be shocked if given enough targets if KJ Osborne was like a 900 to 1,000-yard receiver? I'm not going to say it's going to happen with all these other options, but he's a really good number 3 receiver.
Cohesive line.
Yeah, you got 2 of the best tackles in the NFL. Second year in the system under Kevin O'Connell.
Right.
And like you
Kirk
said earlier,
well.
it's a contract season for him.
Yep.
So he's already a good quarterback in a contract year, motivated to get maybe one final big contract before he rides off into the sunset.
And I do think that while his stats were down, the fact that they won 13 games with Kirk, and he set a record with 8 fourth quarter comebacks. I do think, and he discussed this during the press conference as well, the fact that he's been in the system now for a year and like knows the verbiage and all of those things is huge. So yeah, if you put this together, I keep coming back to the fact, I don't think they win 13 games again, but they are certainly going to be competitive. And I mean, I don't see a big step back here of, they stink. The schedule gets tougher. They're going to go against, I think, and they partially lucked out, they're going to go against more probably frontline QBs, because it feels like they had that stretch there last year where guys were getting hurt that they were about to play left and right. But, there is, I think, offensively an expectation. I think it's fair to say this. It should not surprise anyone if this offense in 2023 is top 5.
Mm-hmm. Is it sort of
really
shaping up a little like maybe the Falcons offense from a few years ago, where everything kind of came together for Matt Ryan in his mid-30s to pop up? Shanahan, another year in the Shanahan system.
Yeah.
That's kind of that team went to the Super Bowl and had a 28-3 lead in the second half of the Super Bowl.
Very Vikings like, don't mention
it. Yeah. Dex, go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off there.
No, I was just going to say that I think that's what Colin Coward was saying, that the offense is set here. Like, we all know what the Vikings offense is. Now, Brian Flores should make the defense a little bit better, but the personnel is still suspect. There's a lot of question marks with the rookies they're bringing in, with the second-year players, but I think it's a foregone conclusion that this offense should be at the very least top 10, right? Like 10th out of the 32 teams.
That Cowherd clip, by the way, was actually shade. That was an NFC ranking. That was not an NFL ranking. He had the Vikings 7th, and we just saw the snippet.
Oh,
and we're like, he's got the he's got the Vikings as the 7th best team.
7th in the NFC.
7th in the NFC. What do you think of that?
I don't see that.
Well, who's for sure better than the Vikings?
He had the Eagles 1, the Niners 2.
Okay,
that's fair.
And then I believe after that, I think
Cowboys
3rd was the Cowboys. 4th was the Rams, assuming that Stafford is healthy.
Maybe.
The
I don't
Rams
know
feel train wrecky.
The Rams are tearing it down a bit, rightfully so.
I don't know who
Cowboys are always a wild card to me.
He had the Lions above the Vikings.
And the Lions were 6, so I forget who was 5th, but the Lions were 6.
You know what? The Lions, when the Lions can actually win the division, talk to me.
I'm with Judd.
They're still the Lions until they're not the Lions. Right?
Correct. Like, why are we like, okay, it's good that they look like an improving team. and there are things about them that I think are certainly there to like. But you know what? When the season ends and the Detroit Lions are flying the NFC North champion flag, get back to me. I'm not going to put them above a bunch of teams yet.
Yeah, I think while some of the markets like the Vegas sports books and stuff, and they're putting out their odds on division winners, the Lions are pretty universally the favorite to win this division. They have a ton of young talent.
Yep.
You can make fun of their draft. They drafted a linebacker and a receiver or and a running back in the first round. Yeah, but those are good players that they drafted. They seem to be dying on a hill for Dan Campbell. And people, again, make fun of Jared Goff. Well, Jared Goff's their quarterback. Dude, Jared Goff, at his best, has been – there's a couple seasons with the Rams and last year with the Lions. He's right there in the Kirk Cousins mix in terms of production. And so –
Very inside football question, though. When it comes to game day coaching, which we have talked about, is one of the most important things, and it's like not accounted for, I don't think, until a coach screws up.
Yeah.
When it comes to game day coaching, Dan Campbell is the same guy that lost the game here, though. With what? He went for it on 4th down until he didn't at the end of that game and tried to kick like a 55-yard field goal. I'm just saying, I think Dan Campbell, until Dan Campbell proves that he has improved there, I think Dan Campbell has a fighting chance to lose you a few games himself with decisions like that. That whole day, they ate the Vikings lunch on 4th down. And when it came to nut cutting time, and that's the time where you're like, your team loves you, man, you got to go for it, right? He's like, oh, no, this time we're going to try a long field goal. Give me Kevin
Dan Campbell doesn't just like football. Dan Campbell loves football.
That doesn't happen by accident. Everything we talked about, we stayed the course, what you guys have done, man. And we're playing some pretty clean, physical football, man.
Football!
Football, yeah! Football! Football!
Gotta eat!
Okay, it just occurred to me. Juxtaposition time. Play the OConnell clip that you've got in the locker room and compare it to that one.
I don't know if we have it. Oh, you want the audio of it?
Yeah, just the audio.
Okay, let me see here.
I think you got it
Just
right
the
back.
audio of this. Here we go.
Yeah, that's fine.
And I tell you guys I love you. I mean it. From the bottom of my heart. I will ride with this group until they don't let us play anymore games.
I'm just telling you, give me that guy.
Just based off those clips.
Just based off those clips.
I like good, clean, physical football, though.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's
Physical
Campbell's
football.
more fun. I'm just saying, the O'Connell passion to me, I'll take him.
And I tell you guys I love you. I mean it. From the bottom of my heart. I will ride with this group until they don't let us play anymore games.
Yeah.
And you know what? A great use of the F-bomb.
It was
Like,
impactful.
that is right, because
Yes.
that's not a he dropped an F-bomb,
He hit it at the peak.
like it's a conductor, an orchestra.
Yeah.
And he's conducting the F-bomb.
He pointed to the timpanis. We needed to,
I love
ramp
when
it
you
up.
say that, yeah.
Okay, there's more here from Vikings Media Day yesterday, including how is Lewis Cine looking, how's Brian O'Neill doing, and some other things. But a shout out to our friends, Judd, at Livia, helping a lot of Purple Daily listeners and viewers lose a lot of weight the last couple of years.
Yep. In fact, the guy on the left and the guy on the right, believe it or not, they're the exact same guy. They're Sports Dad, but Livia Weight Control Centers helped Sports Dad take off 40 pounds more than a year ago now. And most importantly, they're going to help you keep that weight off. You know what? The Vikings are hitting the field again now because they need to get in shape for season. How would you like to get in shape for summer? That's exactly right. Well, it's this simple. And the offer right now, 3 months free, 3 months for free. 855-GO-LIVEA, Livia.com, Livea.com. Join a program that so many people in our Purple Daily family have tried and have had success and have kept that weight off. Livia, Livea.com, 3 months free.
Business owners out there, if you are especially a next generation business owner, maybe you're taking over a family business here at some point or recently did from mom, dad, generations, whatever it may be, or if you're a young business leader in a company, Federated is here with all sorts of tools and guidance to help you. Their history goes back to 1904, You can find a full list of industries Federated works with specifically at federatedinsurance.com, where it's our business to protect yours. Okay, so Lewis Cine looking impressive according to those with a first eye look yesterday. Looking impressive in off-season workouts. Doogie reported on this on the Scoop session today on Minnesota Sports with Mackey and Judd. And so everything, and Kevin O'Connell was saying even earlier this offseason as he's coming back from this broken leg that he's in the building all the time, he's around, he's working out. And I would just say this as we flush the first bad season of Lewis Cine got injured. He was kind of behind the eight ball even before the injury in training camp. Looking back, it doesn't seem like Ed Donatell's system was the best way to develop Lewis Cine.
Sure.
So I almost think you flush the first year, and let's not forget who he is. On a team looking to get younger and faster, this is what a 22-year-old dude that ran a 4.37 40-yard dash at Georgia. He was one of the best relative athletic scores coming out of Georgia, the RAS. I think he had a 98th percentile or 99th percentile RAS score.
Yeah, love the RAS.
Coming out of Georgia.
Yep.
You can line him up anywhere. You can line him up as a free safety. You can line him up in the box. You can line him up in the slot in college. 23 stop tackles at Georgia as well. So let's not forget now. We've almost chalked up that first Kwesi draft. He whiffed on the draft. Yeah. It's a bunch of busts. I'm not ready to say that about Lewis Cine. So good to hear that he's running around and looking impressive so far.
So just to be abundantly clear, a compound fracture is never good. So I'm not going to say a compound fracture is good. It's brutal. I'm sure it's terrible. That being said, Cine didn't have a job. Cine was behind Bynum going into training camp last year, and I think it was more the off-the-field learning curve, okay? Mm-hmm. So according to what KOC has talked about, basically since Cine got hurt, he has been in the building on a regular basis. I would argue that being unable to take part in activity until recently actually probably meant a lot of that time was spent in the classroom. So I think the problem is lots of times guys get drafted, and this league is a different world, like the amount of structure and plays and all that, right? So I do wonder if it's going to help his cause to be a smarter player, to have had time in the playbook, with film, with coaches, because I think the tendency when you're young is to try to do the things that you're already good at. Like, let's go out and practice, let's do this and that. And they're like, hold on a second here. So I think it might be an advantage to Cine in the sense that he did get a ton of classroom time. I also will be disappointed, assuming that he is set to go health-wise, if he is not starting week 1, because he's a first-round pick. I like what he brings. Cam Bynum probably still for sure has a place, and guys are going to get hurt. All of that being said, I would really like to see Cine grab the job by Harry and run away with that job and start week 1.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned, then what happens with Cam Bynum? And I think that's kind of the interesting blank canvas here for the Vikings. If you start to look at the linebackers, safeties, and defensive backs, the guys that are going to be kind of roaming around and used as chess pieces by Brian Flores, there's a lot of youth, a lot of speed. So Harrison Smith is obviously a stalwart, and Jordan Hicks is going to start at linebacker. But you got Lewis Cine, who ran a sub 4.40, 22 years old or whatever he is. Brian Asamoah, yes, one of the faster linebackers, one of the higher RAS scores of linebackers 2 years ago out of Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. Caleb Evans ran a 4.40 and is coming off 3 concussions, but there's a reason why they like him. Mekhi Blackman, Jay Ward, Cam Bynum, Andrew Booth Jr. I put Ivan Pace in the linebacker bin, the undrafted free agent out of Cincinnati. I mean, I just gave you like 8 names of guys that you're going to put into this defensive back linebacker bin, and you're going to figure out it's, in some ways, you actually have a lot of really interesting depth, but obviously there's almost no experience among anyone that I just listed except for Cam Bynum. So we'll have to see how that works.
I got one term, and I believe we, in the expectation that Ed was going to do more being creative, and he didn't. I got one term that I will use again that hopefully Brian Flores believes in. The big dime.
Oh.
The big dime. I tried to talk about this last year, and I thought they might do it, and then...
Football!
And then Donatel didn't do crap. But think about this, okay? So of all the names that you just ran through, and let's just talk about experience is great, but let's just talk about speed too, okay? What if you go have a package, big dime, which introduces a safety, 3 corners, 3 safeties,
A linebacker. So
and
a linebacker.
Brian Asamoah.
Oh, gotcha. So let me do the math here. So you're going.
So there'd be 3.
So 6 defensive backs, Brian Asamoah, and then a couple edge rushers and a couple down linemen.
Yes.
Oh.
And Cine is, and I talked about this last year and never even came close to it, where Cine becomes a pseudo linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
Or hell, you know what, guys?
Dude, Stella
could be
loves
Harrison.
this idea. Listen to
Stella's
Stella
all over it. Way to go, Stella. Way to go. She's just like, oh, pop. It's time for football. I'm like, no, it's really not time for football. It's time for a walk. But if you think about that for a second, and what if you flipped guys? So in one case, Cine is down in the box, but in the next case, Harrison Smith is.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's the wild card too. Harrison Smith was so wasted in a bad way by not himself, Ed Donatel, although I'm sure he
Declan's seen Harrison Smith wasted in the North.
Yeah,
back in the day.
I
Back in the day.
But Harrison Smith was so wasted. But I mean, there's just so many
He
opportunities
was actually very
here.
stoic for being like as many drinks as I was with him, and I was going for like shot for shot and drink for drink with him. He like did not change. Yes.
You kept up with him.
I did keep up with him.
Oh my God, that's a professional
I kept up
athlete.
with him.
That's
I actually,
impressive.
shockingly, I was the rational one. It was someone else in the group that had to be dragged home from the end of that night. And
from your group or from like a player who shall not be named?
From my group that had
perhaps
to be,
a basketball source now.
Had to be dragged home on a tale of untold that I would love to do with the voice, changer and whatnot. So I don't have to name some different people. But
why was Harrison Smith with you guys?
There was a meetup after the Twins game because there was a Vikings night at Target Field.
Okay.
And then everyone met up afterwards.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I feel like you should. If you told any more, then the Vikings would have to kill you.
They might. They might have to. They might have to kill me.
There's a lot of stories like that from Boomtown and Mankato from back in the day too.
Oh God.
A lot of Vikings behavior, 25-year-old Vikings players that had to be covered up by the team.
Forget that. The coaching staff.
Coaching staff behavior as well.
The coaching staff was just as intriguing to watch operate in Boomtown as the players were.
The Paul Ferraro story is always going to be my most uncomfortable. He was Paul Ferraro, right? The former the special teams coordinator.
Yeah, I think it was Paul. Yeah.
And we were both waiting at the bar and he was always kind of a weird guy anyways. And I covered the team for a couple of years, covered him at press we always were there at press conferences together, but we're both letting our hair down at the bar, Boomtown, Mankato, hanging out. Yeah, there's a pool table, darts, everyone's kind of hanging out, and we both happen to be at the bar waiting for a bucket of light beer, and just kind of awkwardly standing there next to each other. And I said, "Hey, Paul, so good to see you, man. So how'd you get your start in coaching?" Just creating some small talk with Paul Ferraro. Paul goes, "It doesn't matter." I was like, "No, I'm curious. How'd you get your start in coaching?" He goes, "We don't have to do this, man."
Paul Ferraro, man after my own heart. I actually love that response.
We don't have to do this, man. We don't have to talk. It's okay. I was like, okay, all right, have a good night, Paul.
Well, give me some
good
dirt,
talk,
Paul.
Dude. We don't have to do this. He probably did us both a favor, quite frankly.
So you have to give me a scoop, though, and I won't name you when I write about it or talk about it.
I will keep asking you questions about your family and your history unless you give me a scoop.
We don't have to do this.
Oh, God. Yeah, Boomtown. Phil's not wrong, though.
Okay, Brian O'Neill's Achilles recovery from a partially torn Achilles is going smoothly, according to Brian O'Neill, who spoke yesterday. This one still worries me a little bit. I know it's not a fully torn Achilles, and he's young enough that he should be able to bounce back, but, an Achilles tendon injury did end the career of Phil Lodeholt, the last franchise right tackle that this franchise had about 10 years ago. So I'm just, old Macadac's a little nervous about Brian O'Neill not coming back as maybe the same exact player.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, in Phil's case, first of all, he was a huge man. He was mammoth. Second of all, I think his Achilles snapped, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
The O'Neill injury was an avulsion fracture that damaged 40% of his right Achilles. So it's bad. It's not as bad. And he obviously does not carry the amount of weight that Phil did. So I'm a little bit concerned, but I also think it'll be fine. I think this one will be fine. If he had ripped the Achilles, so if the whole thing had snapped, I'd be very concerned.
No. Okay. So there's enough of a difference.
So
there,
I'm trying to talk you down.
Okay. I'm not like total panic, but
I know, but I think it's going to be fine. Phil, it's going to be okay, Phil.
Justin Jefferson, speaking of panic here, I'm wondering how much Judd's panicking here. Justin Jefferson was one of 4 notable players not at voluntary workouts. The others were Zadarius Smith, Danielle Hunter, and Dalvin Cook. The latter 3 are all sort of in contract or trade limbo.
Yep.
But Justin Jefferson also awaiting a long-term, maybe historical contract, although TJ Hawkinson was at workouts.
Right.
So Doogie was telling us...
compare those two guys. I mean, the Hawk is great, don't get me wrong. JJ's a superstar already. But, I mean, he might be shooting a commercial for all I know. I was serious about that. I got no clue.
Doogie said it's not like a contentious thing.
Yeah.
That he's like had it sounds like he had a schedule conflict or something.
His contract's going to get done.
It's possible the Vikings may have told him, "Hey, let's not do anything stupid here. Just don't even bother showing up. We'll get the deal done at some point. Maybe they're close on a deal and we don't even know."
Well, and he could be there today too. Like, I mean, guys come and go as well. So yeah, I'm not concerned. His contract will get done, and my guess is it gets done like his training camp starts, right?
Probably. So we're gonna see a Justin Jefferson contract before training camp, ideally, a TJ Hawkinson contract sometime.
Yep.
And maybe we do a bigger episode early next week about Zadarius, Danielle, and Dalvin, but I don't think they're giving Zadarius a new contract. It sounds like he wants one. He's like 32. And Dalvin, it sounds like there's a ton of steam that in about a month from now he's going to go to the Dolphins or some other AFC team for like a 5th round pick.
Yep.
So Danielle would be the other one to watch on the contract front.
The only guy that would concern me at all is Hunter. He's the only one. I mean, if Z comes back, awesome. If he doesn't, it's fine. Cook, okay, dude, it's been great run here. I actually am now looking forward to turning the page on always paying a back. So, You know what? If you go with a committee of 3 guys or 2 guys, I don't know. That's fine too. Danielle's the tricky one because, again, we don't know what their thought process is here because they are definitely trying to skew younger, and Danielle's not young, but he's still productive. So, like, do you give him the contract he wants? And you know, in 2021, he did the same thing here now. He didn't like the contract. And all they did at that time, because there were still multi-years left on the contract, was they gave him more right then. They didn't renegotiate the contract per se.
Yeah.
So like now you can't do that. And so what I can't tell is, are they on the same page as far as thought process of what he deserves? Because he rightfully so probably should get one more really good contract.
Yep. We can, if all this is still kind of lingering early next week, we can do a deeper dive into, all right, who do we want back? Let's break down the financials of what contracts may look like and kind of go from there. But gentlemen, it is time now for the Random Viking of the Week here on Purple Daily. Daily Vikings entertainment presented here by Aquaside. Declan's going to run the Random Viking of the Week, and he's also going to run around all of your lakes with Aquaside.
It's finally 70 degrees out. We're getting warmer. You know, you're probably Xing off each day to put that dock in the water. And when you put that first step in there and you get in that dock and you realize, oh, wow, what is that? There's been some lakeweed and algae that has grown over the long, cold winter. Well, go to our friends at Aquaside to help you diagnose that lakeweed and use Aquaside pellets to help remove. It's a do-it-yourself product. It's a safe product. Go to aquaside.com to get these products to help remove that nasty lakeweed and algae from your lake or pond.
All right, boys. The Random Viking of the Week is Judd 51, Declan and myself 31 all time. Although last week Declan you got Percy Harvin correct at the draft party last week.
Yep. Yeah, it was I'm not pleased with myself off that one. I should have freaking gotten that one.
I think you probably should have too.
That was bad.
Some of the more recent random Vikings of the week include Javon Walker, Roman Reigns, JT O'Sullivan, Anthony Carter, Greg Camarillo, and Mick Tinglehoff. Declan's going to throw out the clues this week, me versus Judd here, and we get up to 3 incorrect guesses each. We can throw out guesses whenever we want to. We can ask Declan questions, but he can refuse to answer because these are his clues. No Googling, no cheating.
All right. This random Viking of the week logged 177 NFL games. Long career. Very long career. Of those 177 games, he had 110 starts.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see here. This random Viking of the week had 5 fumble recoveries.
Okay. It's a trick. Could be a trick. That could be a trick clue right there. Could be a trick clue.
Could be.
Why would he throw that
Thanks,
out there?
Wendy. Thanks,
Why
Wendy.
would he say
Why
that?
would he do that?
Yeah. Why would Gobert be a wolf? That's a good
This
question, Wendy.
random Viking of the week had 8 kick returns. Not for touchdowns, just kick returns. Picked up 8 of them.
8 kick returns.
This random Viking of the week was undrafted. So 177 games, undrafted. Pretty impressive.
That's very interesting.
Eight kick returns in that long a career might have meant the dummy picked up squib kicks.
Could have been.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, I'm just throwing it out there.
No, yeah, you can throw it out however you want. This random Viking of the week wore 2 different numbers with the Vikings, according to his Pro Football Reference page. Lists the numbers each year, and he changed numbers during his final season with the Vikings.
Okay. Interesting.
Judd's thinking hard here.
Yeah, this is a really interesting.
Or I'm frozen.
Oh, yeah.
8 kick returns, 5 fumble recoveries, 110 starts, 2 different numbers. Okay.
This random Viking of the week was part of a Vikings offense that finished number 1 in the NFL. In yards, by the way, not in points, if that helps.
Okay. Wow. I have a guess, but I don't know. This might be stupid because I don't think this player played 177 games. But I'm going to guess Andrew Glover.
That's a deep pull. Nice.
I don't even know if. Yeah.
I don't remember if he switched numbers. I was hoping that would jog my
I don't
memory.
think he played
but
that many games though.
I don't. Ah, boy. Switch numbers.
Mm-hmm. This random Viking of the week. Phil Mackey put out a tweet in 2012 that said, "I bet this random Viking of the week sends an email in all caps with no punctuation."
I said that in 2012.
Yeah.
Oh my god, dude.
Judd tweeted out one time, "There's a chance by New Year's Eve I could be drinking at Bunny's with this random Viking of the week."
Mike Tice?
Oh, yep. Great guess, dude. God dang it.
Mike
It's a
Tice.
great guess because he was on the '98 Vikings, right?
He was he was a coach on the '98 Vikings.
So what was their number 1 offense that he was part of?
He was the head coach in 2003 when they had the #1 offense in the NFL.
Oh, that was a tricky one.
That is dirty. But I did it to you with Daryl Bevel back in the day.
Yeah.
That's freaking dirty, man.
Yeah.
That is so
God,
dirty.
you guys
I was
are
sniffing
so
around
devious.
it. I was sniffing around it. God dang it. I knew it was a tight
You
end.
got a tight end. You got
a tight end associated with the 98 or 03 Vikings.
I knew the tweet from Judd was probably going to tip it off, so I wasn't going to use that one
So
that early.
he picked up 8 squib kicks.
Picked up 8 squib kicks.
Probably, yeah.
11 touchdowns in his career. I didn't get to that clue.
Played for Chuck Knox.
Was featured on Hard Knocks with the Falcons in 2014.
Yep.
Is another clue?
Nice job, Judd. Nice job.
Thank you. Wore spectacles while being the OC for Jay Cutler and the Bears. Tried to go the professor route.
Yep.
Do you remember that when he wore the spectacles?
I do remember that. Nice job. Nice job there. I'm frustrated. That was Declan pulled a fast one there, but that's okay. It's within the rules of Random Viking of the Week. It's within the rules.
Player and coach. So, I mean, it works.
Just out of curiosity.
Yes.
Andrew Glover. He just kind of felt like he played for a long time with the Vikings and some other teams, right? So he was a 10th round pick.
Oh, back when they were 12.
But he did play 154 career games, and he was on the 98 Vikings. God.
He was a pretty good player.
He was a pretty good player. So anyhow, all right, there you go. There's your daily fix of Vikings entertainment. We'll see you guys for a feedback Friday tomorrow. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.